Thank you for checking out our podcast today. We hope that the teaching you're about to hear will inspire you and motivate you on your incredible journey in becoming a better you. So please turn your attention to today's message.
All right. Want to welcome our first-time guests. If this is your first time with us, welcome. For those that are watching us online, if this is your first time watching online, we want to welcome you as well. Welcome you. As I said, one of the benefits of being on of having online service as well is that we get to really expand and grow the church to many different areas where we just couldn't do just look where. So those that are watching us out of state and even out of country, welcome. So all month in our church here at Scarlet Note, we talk about different topics. And last month we focused on God's love for women, and the women had an entire month, and it was a spectacular month. The women did an amazing job. And man, can I tell you, the room was so filled with estrogen. We needed to balance things out. So the month of June, we then honor men, and we celebrate men and the fathers, and so we're talking to men. And last week, if you were not here last week, it was Father's Day, and for Father's Day, I had a Father's Day chat with my two sons, Pastor Jose and Tank Top Adrian. I'm like, you trying to show muscles? Is that what he's doing? And every time he lifts his hand, I mean, his arms, stuff is showing. I'm like, ew, man, put that away. Hey, man, I might be old-fashioned, but man, anyway. But we did a conversation. We had a conversation, and many people, we got a lot of feedback about that conversation. I don't know how many people were blessed by that, but it gave an opportunity for many families and people to reflect on their relationship with dad, their relationship with their parents, and be able to go back and maybe revisit relationships and things that have been done and have been said in the past. And so I really hope that you were so blessed. Yes. So for those that are here for the first time, my name is Jose. If I didn't say that already, my name is Jose, and together with my wife Becky and the most amazing staff, we get to spearhead this ministry. And this ministry just focuses on family. We literally focus on family. We want to see wives be the best wives, husbands be the best husbands, and be the best dads, and be the best moms, and for the single people to be the best single people, and for those that are widows, the best. I mean, just the best of the best in whatever circumstance and wherever you are. We just want to be a place where we can have a safe place to have healthy conversation and continue to grow and follow the pathway of Jesus. So many parents give their children their own version of God's truth. Listen carefully. Many parents will give their children their own version of God's truth, and then that truth becomes a God truth in their children. We were never called to give our children our version of God's truth, because He doesn't need our help. And He doesn't want our help. So He just wants us to give our children His truth. And it is His truth that will not come back void. You know, Eli was a priest in Israel. And the Bible says that he would not correct his children. And because he would not correct his children, and by children I'm talking about they were men at that time, he was holding those men accountable, knowing that his children were violating laws. God had to deal with not just his sons harshly, but also with Eli. Jesse, who is King David's father, the Bible says that he raised 8 sons. 8 sons. when they were going to elect a king, God had sent a prophet by the name of Samuel to go and search out for the one that he had anointed to be the king. When this man visits Jesse at the house, he goes to the house, and the first one that he saw qualified. And God goes, nope, not this one. Then he sees bring me the next one. He sees the next one, he goes, qualified. And God goes, it's not that one. And he does this 7 times. Jesse, to his credit, raised men that were king quality in the eyes of other men. And then obviously, for those that know the story, there was the 8th one that was that he didn't even consider to be among the elect. But when the prophet saw him, he knew that this was going to be the king of Israel. My point is that as a father, this man raised 8 men that were all qualified for the role of a king. God said of Abraham, I know that he will raise his sons to fear the Lord. Out of Genesis chapter 18, and I think I have this here on my phone. Please forgive me for the way we're doing this. Things are different. Usually we have the scriptures up there. We don't have this particular one. We don't have it. Don't freak out, guys. Don't freak out. But this particular, look, Johnny's like, okay. But this scripture, I have it here. I wanted to control things. This is what he said about Abraham. He said, I have singled him. He didn't single his wife. Husbands, men, are you listening? Yeah. This is not hierarchical. That's not what this is. This isn't about hierarchy. No. But he said, I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. Then I will do for Abraham all that I have promised. Men are vital. Men are vital in our lives. Can't believe no one said amen. Wow. I didn't hear it. It was like under the, like you should just like we were cheering you women. Right. We need to be cheered. Luis, you see how they treat us? That's not cool, man.
One more time.
Men are vital to life. Man and what man is currently being redefined in our country. It's being redefined and reduced to just being a mere feeling. If you feel like a man, then you are a man. And Jordan Peterson said these words, and not that I'm here promoting Jordan Peterson or his narrative, but I like this quote. He said that if you don't say what you think, then you kill your unborn self. When you have something to say, silence is a lie. So you have to speak up. Many men today have lost their oomph to stand up for themselves and for fellow man and humanity. Many men have ceased to cease life. And they merely exist in their homes. They have no purpose in their homes other than work, make money, and pay bills. And those are the good ones. Many men have no purpose, no direction, no models or mentors. They have turned to athletes, professional athletes, as their models, rappers and singers and actors, and now even they've reduced themselves to now follow influencers on YouTube and TikTok. Why? Because there aren't capable, qualified men to lead. 1 Corinthians, we have it, don't we? We have that one, don't we? Paul said these words. Men, are you listening to me?
Yeah.
He said, when I was a child, that means that there's a season to be a child. Then I spoke and I thought and I reasoned as a child.
But.
Come on. But. When I
Grew up.
man, it's time to grow up. It is time to grow up. What do you do when you grow up? And many of you single women are out there looking for those childish ways. You're chasing these boys. You're not interested in men. All right, let me stop there because y'all had y'all months. No, y'all had y'all months. No, we're moving forward. We're moving forward. Let me go to the next verse here before I bring up. Listen to the conversation between two kings. One king is dying, and he's going to now, he's passing things down to his successor. And at the time of his death, these are the words that he is sharing to his successor, his son. He says, as the scripture says in 1 Kings chapter 2, verses 1 through 2, it says, as the time of King David's death approached, he gave this charge to his son Solomon. Of all the things he could have said to his son, of all the things he could have said to his son, of all the things he could have said to his son, of all the things he could have said to his son, this is what he said. He said, I'm going where everyone on earth must someday go. Take courage, be a man.
Yeah.
Several movements have targeted the idea of what a man is. And they've gone on a blatant outright war against those conservative values and biblical definition of what a man is. And by conservative, I'm not saying a political right. It's not what I'm talking about. All right? I'm not taking any political positions here. So more than ever before, man and what man stands for is going through a social grinder, and it's trying to reshape man into something far, far, far off from what God intended man to be. And this is a conversation that I want to have. I want to help stir the hearts and the minds of those that are here this morning and those that are watching us online into reflecting on using the power of the Holy Spirit to help see truth by way of the convictions of the heart when it comes to the matter and the issues of manhood. Many men are afraid to speak up in their circumstances, to voice how they feel, the things that ail them and afflict them, so they hide. They hide, they suppress. They try to numb real life issues and situations with substance abuse, overworking, and other vices, just to numb the things that are natural in them. We want you to know that men like women are precious. Men like women are precious.
Amen. Thank you.
Not only are they precious, but they are needed.
Yes.
Men are the cornerstone of the success of society, and all around the world they're needed. They're vital. Men were made in the image of God and get their worth from their Creator. Every little boy will someday be a man. Every little boy. Moms, if you're in this place, your little boy will be a man someday. As every man that is in this room was also once a little boy. Adolf Hitler, Ted Bundy, Pablo Escobar, Al Capone, Jeffrey Dahmer, Osama bin Laden. They all have one thing in common. They were all once an empty canvas in the hands of a mom and the hands of a dad. They were all victims themselves of the external influence that are today plaguing your children. So I'm going to ask Rebecca, I'm going to ask Jessica to come and join me in this conversation, this chat. Last week, I had a conversation with their husbands, my sons. this morning, I hope to now be able to have a conversation with these guys. Now, I prepared 24 questions. Now, I got stuff to say, stuff to ask. Now, I talked to Adrian and Jose, and they had 7 questions. So, I don't know how long this is going to be. We can skip some questions. We can. You can literally, how about this? How about if you say, skip that one? How about? You can. All right. But Rebecca, this is Rebecca. This is my daughter-in-law. And you have now been in my life how many years?
13 years.
13 years in my life as a daughter-in-law. All right. As a daughter-in-law. This is Jessica on my right hand. And she also has been, she too has been in my life now how many years?
10.
10 years. Mm-hmm. All right. So I want to give you guys the perspective of being man, but I want to give you that perspective from the eyes of a woman, from the mouth of a woman, from the perspective of a woman, okay, from the heart of a woman. All right. So I left Becky out there because she going through something. So she was here, but then we were like, nah, sit down. No, not at all. That's not what it is. But let me start real quick with some simple things. All right. Jessica, how many siblings do you have?
I have 2.
2. Boys, girls, what?
1 brother, 1 sister.
Okay. Older?
Both.
So you are the baby.
I am. They're 11 years older and 13 years older.
Rebecca?
Excuse? I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters from the same mom and the same dad.
It's a lot of busyness.
No TV.
No, literally. Tell me, Rebecca, what does mom mean to you? What does mom mean to you?
Wow. So mom.
Keep it short, okay? We
Yeah.
got 24 questions.
So mom is everything. Mom was the pillar of our house. She was always there. She never gave up. She never left. She was consistent.
Jessica, what does mom mean to you?
Pretty similar. My mom was my example of what I wanted to be as a woman, and her courage, her fight, she is an amazing woman. She's strong. Just everything I wanted to emulate.
All right. Well, to add to that, then tell me about dad. What does dad mean to you?
In general, or my dad?
Your dad.
My dad. I love my dad, but I've had to learn to love him for who he is and how he loves.
Okay.
My dad is a wonderful man. He is a hard worker. He too is brave and courageous, and has been through a lot.
Okay.
And he's a war veteran, victim of violence, and so there's just been a lot in his life, and just to see all the things that he's overcome. And he is a horse.
Okay.
He's beat cancer 3 times. He is a rock.
All right.
A rock.
Rebecca, what does that mean to you?
I had shared before. My dad is a great man. He passed away last year, but he was a great friend, a great member in the church, a great person. You met him. Mm-hmm. He can talk. He was good, but he was not that at home. So I just always wanted to experience that. The dad that I saw in the church, that I saw with family members, or I saw in the streets. So it's why I always wanted that.
Okay.
but that was amazing, man, and I always wanted to enjoy that at home, but didn't happen that way all the time.
Okay. Jessica, was there ever a moment in Mom's life where you thought to yourself, blank would be easier if Dad was here? Or if Dad did this, or if Dad's involvement was included in the matter? Was there ever a time as a kid that you thought, man? And if so? And again, we're not here to bash dads. We're here to have a conversation. This is a chat. All right?
I don't think it was necessarily a moment of like, if he was here, this would be better, but it was more if he was healed and able to communicate and felt like he had a voice and could be vulnerable.
Just bring me the whole box. We're going to do this all day. We're going to do this.
We came prepared. We brought him.
Hey, put them up here. Right there.
You know, it was more of if he could be vulnerable and communicate the way I know that he wanted to, it could have been a lot better for her.
So, what was the question?
The question
Moments
is,
that
yeah.
I wish my dad was there.
Was there ever a moment in your mom's life where you thought, you know what, it would be easier if Dad was present, if he was involved in this matter?
So, my mom had 10 kids.
10 kids.
And Dad was not there here and there. Like a couple of years, he also fight tuberculosis and was sick. So he was not there a lot of times, and my mom worked so hard. So every night, my mom would never stop, because even with so little, I always had a warm meal. With so little, I always had like a clean house, a beautiful house. So she worked, 18 hours in the day at home. She never held a job outside the house, but she was a seamstress. She will make dresses for people. She will make sure that we had everything. And at the end of the day, I saw my mom so tired, her face was tired. And I was like, come on, like, why my mom life has to be too difficult? And I never saw my mom still or rested. She was always tired.
So you saw and experienced life seeing Mom and seeing your dad. Tell me now, as a young single woman, this is before your, how many years now? 13?
13.
And before your 10 years, single women, what was your personal head and heart space about men? What were your thoughts about men? Now you're single. You're no longer under the grip of Mom or Dad. You're single women, independent in the world. What is your headspace? What are your thoughts about a man?
So for me, I never met a man, or never had somebody as simple in my life where I saw that the wife was the priority. Growing up, every experience, even in church, I never saw a man look into his wife and say, oh, that's his priority. So I dated a couple guys, and I never saw.
Did you hear that? A couple guys.
Are you serious?
One had a motorcycle.
But I never saw myself as a priority for them. It was something else always. So I always thought I'm not going to get married, because I was not willing to settle, and I was not willing to be with somebody that I would not be his priority, or I would not be fulfilled. And I always say to myself, I'm not going to get married to be unhappy. So I didn't want to get married.
Say that again.
I didn't want to get married to be unhappy.
So you,
Yeah, me.
single.
Yep.
What are you thinking about men? How do you see men? Perspective of men.
So I saw them, the men in my home and the men that I dated obviously were different characteristics, but I had a few men as well, for Adrian. And, I'm older, so, we're older, there's more time on the earth. But my experience was, I come from a blended family times two. My dad had a previous marriage, and my brother and sister came from that marriage, and then he married my mom, and then my parents divorced, and he got remarried. So
And your parents divorced after how many years?
19.
And both Christians?
Yes. And so I learned a lot about what I didn't want.
Very good.
And that was my example, not because they're bad people. I just, how I wanted to deal with things, the type of man I wanted to communicate with and things like that. And then...
Stop there for a second. And the reason I'm asking this particular question is because those that are parents now, I want you to know, regardless of the words that you speak, you're always teaching something to your children. Yep. You're teaching something to your children in your conduct, in your behavior, the way you treat mom, the way you treat dad. You're always teaching something. They're learning something from you. You are a teacher. So this is why I'm asking that question. Based on what you saw, based on what you experienced, what was the headspace of a man, and how do you see him? Okay.
And then dating, men sort of just became it was just always negative. It was never, it was just the way they made me feel. It was always never good enough. There was always something better. And I wasn't ever treated with respect or love in any way. So as a single woman before Adrian, I just kind of was
Don't
done.
mention your husband.
No, before
don't at
him.
all.
Before
Don't
him.
even mention his name. You're single now. All right, you're single. Don't mention.
Yeah, I was done. I just was done. I was done chasing something that felt impossible. I was done looking. I was done dealing with the mess, the way it made me feel. I never had a good experience. It was terrible.
So let's stop there. Okay. So then, what then for you, Rebecca? And I'm gonna double up these two questions. Okay. So listen carefully. What were your plans for your life in contrast to mom? Number one. What were your plans? Okay. And Jess, you listen carefully. Okay. What were your plans for your life in contrast to mom? And where did men fit in those plans?
So,
by the way, when I sent these questions to them, they were like, really? Like, this is the stuff we're talking about? So, go ahead, because I know they're not easy questions.
So, when I was little, I don't know, maybe like 5, my mom and I, we got like a prophecy from a preacher in the church that will be a ministry somehow. So, my mom, since that age, she was always putting me accountable. Hey, you're going to do this for God. Don't forget. So, but in my mind, my plans were, I'm tired of the struggle. I'm going to do a career. I'm going to do a professional career. That was always my dream and my focus. My mom was like, I don't know if this is you because remember, God wants something with you and stuff like that. So I was like, Mom, it's nothing here. Like, I'm not even close to the pastoral family. Like, it's not, a ministry for me is not possible.
You didn't see it, right?
I didn't see it. So for me, my dream and my goal is like, I'm not going to get married. I'm going to support my mom. I'm going to support my family. And that was my goal. It's like, I'm going to do good in life, but professionally. That was my goal. But my mom was like, oh no, I don't think that's you. But because my mom didn't know how peaceful put together, because we didn't have gray men in our church. So like, well, where is this going to come from? You know, like. So we didn't know how, but my mom knew you got to serve God.
Yeah.
What you doing professionally, I think it's not that's all that you're going to do. So, and then man, I never picture myself married because again, I didn't saw potential and where I grew up. So I was like, no, it's not for me.
Jess? Contrast to mom, your plans, and then where did men fit in that?
My mom always told me that I would marry a musician.
Really?
From when I was a little girl.
Okay.
She saw it. And she always saw me independent and strong and in the creative world, and just her and I always had those conversations, and every time I would introduce her to someone, she'd be like, oh, he's nice, but he's temporary, you know, that's not it. And I'd be like, Mom, I love him. And she's like, no, he's nice. And I think because of what I didn't have at home in terms of my parents' marriage and my brother's marriage, and just everything that I had seen, I looked and probably forced a certain love in relationships. So I was looking to men to fulfill that hole in my life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be married so badly, and I was willing to change everything about myself to be loved and have it.
Yeah.
And lost myself. So because I wanted so badly to be loved,
Right.
and I wanted so badly to have the family that I know I longed for, but I just wasn't going about it in the best way.
So now we're going to fast forward, all right? Now come the dudes.
Yeah. Come on.
So Rebecca, I'm gonna start with you. You are in the United States on a tourist visa, right? Is tourist or no?
Tourist visa.
Okay, all right. And this is temporary. You're here to learn English, to study.
Yeah, I wanted to stay 3 months.
That was your
The
plan,
max, yeah.
right? Okay. You come to a church. At the time, it was your brother's church. It was your sister's church, and you come and you're visiting, and you see this young man. At the time, was how old?
19, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
I was 23 already.
She was 23, and this boy is
I was a baby.
19. What, tell me initially, right? When you saw him the first time, what went through your heart and mind, if anything, when you first saw him?
So
Your first, just at a glance.
So I thought he is cute. Like when I saw him, like, I have always a problem. I ignore guys. I wanted to make them feel bad. Like that was my game. Like I would never.
Hold on. No. And hold on. Because see, you think it's just a strategy,
No, it's,
but a lot of times these are behaviors that you have learned as a result of the consequences at home. And this is how you approach everything. All right, so go ahead.
so I always ignore guys. So I remember Papa approaching me. Oh, Pastor Jose. Sorry.
Pastor.
And number one, when I dated guys older than me because I like young guys are bad. I have hope that at least an older guy, not older, like 10 years older than me, it will be like has some qualities at least. But they didn't. So when he approached me, he didn't know English, and
He didn't know Spanish.
I'm sorry, he didn't know Spanish, and I didn't know English, but he was like, I don't know, he and I think you're going to ask me a question about this, but
Yes, I will.
my first impression was, nothing is going to happen. You are young, and I'm going to ignore you.
How did you know he was young?
Because he looked young. He was skinny, so tiny. And I didn't know his age, but he looked young.
Okay. All right. Let's move to Jessica. Quickly, guys. We gotta go through these questions because it's. Hey, listen. And if you have to go to work today or what and you have to quietly just go for. I don't want to rush this conversation either. So go ahead.
What was the question?
When you saw Adrian, your hubby, for the very first time, what went?
Let's go.
That's now. That don't count.
What went through your head or your heart, if anything? This is your first encounter. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking when you first met and you dated. No. What was your initial perception when you saw him at first?
There wasn't one. not in rudeness, but I'm also older than Adrian. So, and I also came from the same mindset, especially after failed relationships with dating some older guys, not 10 years, but older. And so, and I was a single mom when I met Adrian. And so I for sure was not looking in the direction of anyone younger than me and at all. And it wasn't even a consideration to me. So it was
Very
like
good.
more, hey kiddo, is what I called him. I was like, hey kiddo.
Hey, but she seen me.
All right. All right, here we go. Now let's move forward. What then happened in your heart, Rebecca? What happened in your heart? What happened in your mind that opened you to even considering this seemingly young person? Now, listen, you have siblings that are.
Everybody's older than.
So go ahead. What happened?
So we met in June when I went to the church, and in July he asked me for a date. And he took me for a Starbucks coffee, like a chat. And I don't know how, he was able to speak more Spanish. I don't know how. The Papa said that he went through a fast program. And remember, everything that we thought in church for maybe 3 weeks was, hola, ¿cómo está? Like, it was the whole thing that he was talking to me. So I was just, oh, hola. So he invited me for a coffee. And I remember, maybe he practiced for this, but what was that? So he's a guy that's younger than me.
All right, hold on. Listen, guys, listen carefully. Go ahead.
He was a guy younger than me, and he knew that I would be staying for 2 or 3 months in the United States. And he said, I want to marry you. And
Stop. What?
The first day he said, I want to marry you. He didn't ask me, can you be my girlfriend?
Hold on. And this is what gets me with young single women. That the very first thing is about, let me go to bed with you. All right, let me stop.
So he said, I want to, and I remember this.
Listen,
words.
hold on. 19 years old. What is in the heart and what is in the mind of a young person that says, I'm not looking to have a fling, I'm looking for a wife.
So he said, everything that I want is to be a husband, is to be a dad. And he said, I don't know, I don't have nothing to figure out. I know you're going to be living, but I want to marry you, and we're going to have ups and downs because I'm not prepared for this, but I want to marry you. And remember, I was dating guys in the past that were older, and they didn't have a plan. And I was like, this guy wants to marry me without figuring it out first. And for me, that was like, he is ready. Like, he is ready and he wants me. And
Stop
that
for
was...
a moment. Because some of you guys are thinking that the wife is the topper on top of the cake of everything you're trying to build, including your finances, your career, all of those things. And so the wife is the last thing that we add to everything. The wife is the last thing. All right? So because this is the way we've been taught. Go experience life, experience the world, go travel, go do this, and get your schooling, and get all of those, do all of those things, and then you settle down. So now, this is a woman that says, oh, wait a minute, his game is different. He's talking about marriage. Okay.
So at this point, I was done with my career, and this guy, he told me, I don't have nothing figured out. I just finished high school, but I want to marry you, and we're going to be fine.
High school.
Yeah, she just finished college.
Actually, I was in the United States because I was one of the best students in Mexico, and they gave me some cash to go somewhere to study some English. So I used the cash and I paid for CISO College here in Maryland.
All right. Okay. So let's stop there. So now something starts to happen in your heart.
That moment, I was like, butterflies. That was the moment.
A cup of coffee.
It was expensive.
Hold on. A cup of coffee. Listen. A cup of coffee. And the true and genuine, authentic heart of a man.
Amen. Come on.
That's it. No games, no flowers and strawberries and teddy bears and tinsel.
Oh, he brought me flowers.
Oh, he did? Okay. Good job, son. But what I'm saying is, butterflies already. All right. Boom. You.
So for me,
So something didn't happen because kiddo now, something happened.
came daddy.
Good. Good.
So for me, I became a very big actions person because I had relationships where things were promised and things were said and then there was nothing ever to back it up. So also, like Babel, Adrian, we were leaving worship practice or something at church, and I remember we were in the lobby. He's 20, because this is before 20. I'm 25, single mom, single dad. And just moved back from California. And he looks at me in the lobby. We've probably had little to zero conversations other than, hey, kiddo, back and forth, like hi and bye. And he looked at me and he said, I'm going to marry you someday. And I laughed at him and I said, pray about it, with no intention of considering it. And then for a good year.
By the way, had that move ever? I mean, anyone ever said that to you? Like
no, not even the people I had dated for 2 years
okay.
said that to me.
All right.
And so I it wasn't a consideration. So then for about a year and 8 months, a year and a half.
The question was when? All right. Now something happened.
Yep.
Okay, go.
So after a year and a half of him asking me out on dates and me saying no, you and Mom were out of town, and Adrian was tasked with making sure that the third service that Sunday was handled from top to bottom. And we were both serving on the worship team, so we ended up serving at all three services because we were doing worship at all three services. So I literally spent the entire day with him, And we had built a friendship by now. But I remember at some point during that day looking at him and seeing him serve with excellence and just his heart behind making sure everything was okay. And not just okay, but right. And you weren't there to tell him. And just seeing that honor and respect that he had and just that heart for serving and worshiping. And that was the day where I was like, huh. And I texted him that night and I said, why me? Because I had men in my life tell me that I was the one and that they loved me, and then it all fell through because somebody prettier, somebody better, somebody that filled a need that I didn't came along.
There's never no one better. Don't say that.
And so, but for them, I was the fixer, and then they went and took them fixed selves to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like I was waiting for him to drop the ball after a year and a half of like, he'll get over it. He's young. I'm a phase. Like, somebody else will come in. He'll be fine. Like, I'm a single mom. There's no way in heck he wants me. And the ball never dropped. He was consistent. He considered who was around him, because he always wanted to make sure that I knew that his eyes were on me. Yeah. Even when I was rejecting him, his consistency all the way through, even with me telling him no. And then that day that we had.
All right. So we got to move fast with some of these answers. Hold on. But now listen to this. Hold on. Rebecca, for you, right? When did you know that this guy is the guy that you were going to put it all on the line for? Rebecca, for you, it meant that you were going to leave mom, leave your family, leave your siblings, leave your country, leave a culture that you were brought up in, leave a whole life that you knew and somewhat of a life that you had control of, and now you were putting it all on the line for a complete unknown. What is the force? What was the power in you? And what was it in your husband that moved you to take this unmeasurable risk? Uncalculable.
So from that first day, I started growing love for him. So that was like kind of the butterfly moment. And then we really, and to be honest, we really never had a full conversation before getting married, because the language was the struggle there. So was kind of like snips of moments that we were able to communicate. However, I understood after that day and a couple more days that I will be the priority, and that we'll be able to work together to be happy. And he never told me, oh, but this is the way I am, and you have to figure it out, because like kind of like I saw that in men that, oh, I'm like this, and you just have to kind of like jump with me. And he always like, hey, I don't know how this is going to be, but we're going to figure it out together. And I saw the light. I was like, I can grow a potential happy life, because we can work together. Like, we can do it. Like, he was willing to learn with me. And when I went back to Mexico in December, I was here from June to December, and I started preparing the wedding. I took a wedding dress with me. And because we were...
Hey, guys, these guys just mad. And now, boom, it's just the amount of, like, the timing. You cannot believe it. We're parents, and this is our 19-year-old boy, our son. Holy.
So
wow.
When I went back to Mexico from December to April, there was our wedding in April 2010. I had my moment like, oh, I'm going to be living forever. It's not coming back. And I started like figuring out, I don't know this guy. And we were kind of like trying to call each other at night, but it was so difficult. That time, phones were not like now. They were like, what's so difficult? He spent a lot of money trying to call me international. What's difficult? And I had more.
Skype camera.
And I didn't have internet in my home, so. But I had my doubts, but I knew the potential of being happy. And I knew that it would be difficult because I'll be in another country without my mom, but I saw the potential of building a happy life.
And Jessica, for you, it wasn't without risk. Now, I don't want to give all of the details about where you were in your life. That's totally up to you. But I know all that you had going on from moving from California to Delaware. Things were not going quite as you had wanted or planned. And now you're returning back home to Delaware to try to put pieces back together. So, I'm going to let you elaborate on that. But same question for you. What is the force? What happened in you? And what was it in Adrian that moved you to say, I've had all this stuff in my life, all this junk and these circumstances, but this feels right. What was it?
So coming from California, because of what I was lacking and because of how I conducted myself, I lost myself and was living pretty recklessly, and I got pregnant in California, and I moved back home to Delaware and had to just start from zero. And I realized through my pregnancy.
Stop for a second. Because you said, yeah, I got pregnant.
Yeah, I did.
And I want you to know that wherever you are, young ladies, listen to me. Even young men, listen to me. If you've had one of those moments where you now have a child, I don't ever want you to think that you are damaged goods.
That's right.
I never want you to think that you have to reduce yourself. Reduce yourself to now someone else's leftovers. You are a child of God, and He forgives you, He redeems you, and He makes you pure as if nothing had ever happened. Your child and whatever has happened is now an addition to your journey, and there is greatness ahead of you. Greatness ahead of you.
So I was lost, and I realized through my pregnancy and as I was going through healing, because I felt that way, I had considered abortion, which is something I always told myself I would never find myself in a position to decide. And here I am eating my words, and I just felt my one thing my mom always asked of me is, please just get married first, because my brother had kids first and my sister had kids first, and marriage never came. And so my mom always wanted that desire for me to build from the right start. And so it's like I just felt like I'm her only shot at this. And I just tore that dream down. And so I just felt like a huge disappointment. So for me, I was going through all those things, and being a single mom, there was not a dad in the picture, and being pregnant, and so I remember God revealing to me that I gave you Levi. You thought this was ruining your life, but it was my way of rescuing your life. And when I realized His purpose in my life, I was really set on making sure that I didn't put Him in just anyone's hands. And that was a big reason why for 1.5 years I rejected Adrian, because I wasn't ready. I had committed myself and promised to myself that I would not date around, I did not want my son to experience that. I didn't want to put him in a situation, and so I was just set on the next guy I date is my husband. I don't know when that'll be. So when I met Adrian and we were friends and I had that moment that Sunday, what made me feel safe putting my son and myself in his hands was because of the consistency and the honor and the respect that he showed me when we weren't dating. Because those were his actions where he got nothing in return for so long.
Nothing in return. Ladies, are you listening? All right.
But he honored me and respected me more than any guy that I dated. And I just knew that, and he's younger than me. He was only 21 when we started dating and almost 22, and he didn't have anything in life figured out.
He had nothing.
Nothing in life figured out.
Nothing.
But it wasn't what he had or what he didn't have. It was the values that I saw in him. It was the evidence that I saw in him that made me know that this is going to be okay.
Now, I take this young lady to my home because I need to have a conversation with her. I sat with my wife, and I'm just her. I think Baba was there too.
They both were there.
Okay. Shh.
Spanish, so he didn't.
Yeah, I was speaking Spanish. And he didn't understand. Listen carefully. She's crying about her love for my boy. Like crying. Like she had, like if she was crying, like it was like the most amazing thing. I look over at my son and he's like it's like it's just a boy. It's just a boy. I can't wrap my head around what son. It's too much. And I'm listening to this lady describe my son, and I can't believe she's talking about my son that way. Because they don't have anything but values. And if it weren't enough, then I'm going to move over from Rebecca. And I sat down with Jessica. I did the same thing. I said, and I told her over and over, you know you could run. You don't have to do this. And she's crying. I'm like going, two of them. And he had nothing. Oh my goodness. Now let's move. Man, time is going so fast. Fast forward, you get married. You begin your life. After your normal hiccups of getting to know each other, there's normal hiccups, right? Stuff that happens. You get to know each other. Jessica, yes or no? Do you regret your gamble?
No.
Rebecca, do you regret your gamble?
No.
Why?
How could I? He's the father that I prayed. I mean, that entertains me every day. No, he's an answer to the prayers that I prayed, the prayers that I should have prayed and didn't even think of for myself. He is what I didn't know I deserved.
Look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Describe. the man. No, look at me. Describe to me the man that your hubby is. And try and pretend that he is not in this room, all right? Try to pretend that he's not even listening. In your description, don't include the fatherhood attributes. Just describe him as a man. What is your observation of him as a man?
He is consistent, God-fearing, brave, funny, loving, selfless.
You?
Describe?
Describe him. He's not in the room.
Yeah.
He's not even listening. What kind? And don't talk about what kind of a father he is. No.
Yeah.
I want you to. What kind of a man is he? Describe him.
He builds a life every day for us that we are.
You're not
happy.
describing your children. Your
No.
Just you.
For me and him, he makes sure that he builds that life where we are happy. And he is. He has strong faith for God. He is a leader. He is a leader, and that for me is a lot because I'm a leader too. But he shines in the way that I'm comfortable in trusting him and how he makes decisions. He is very intentional in growing himself and growing us. He is very. He makes sure that we have a life that's 50-50. That I don't have to worry about things at home because he is present. So he is present and getting to know me. He is present on how I'm feeling. He's always intentional in that I'm okay. Like every day, like you okay, your eyes blinking and your face is like that. How you're doing? Like every day, he's intentional in how I'm doing. I don't have to worry about nothing. I don't have to. My house is good, tidy, and he's a very handy man, very smart man. He can figure out mechanics, pump, electric, everything. So I don't have to think about things that Mama had to think. I don't have to stress about things that people stress about. Papa got it. And he is also very punctual. He is he is very punctual. That is for me like he respects people's time. He respects my time. So that for me is one of the tasks. Like he don't play with people's time. He don't play with my time. He don't play with church time. So he's very intentional, giving always the best and not being mediocre of things. So and the thing that my dream was when after I met him and I started making a dream was I want to be happy and I want to live a life that we don't have to ask for forgiveness. So after 13 years, we are in the same harmony. We are like thinking the same, and I'm happy. I'm happy. And he makes me happy.
She wasn't supposed to do all that.
I know.
I got you, baby.
Quickly, because it's almost, we got to wrap this up. Quickly. Describe him as a father. Jessica, you go first.
He is.
Now, in this description, you have a blended family.
Yeah.
Yeah. That comes without challenges. So go ahead, describe him as a father.
Yeah. He is intentional with each relationship with his children. All three of them are very different and have different needs and different ways of bonding with him. And he is intentional about making moments that are just for them. and connecting with them. He spends a lot of time with our boys, just answering, probably can't say I'm on live stream, but educating them on their bodies, on their minds, on things they're going to face. And while it's very entertaining, for me as a mom, it gives me peace because I know that my boys are being prepared for what's next in their life and their development, where they're going. He's a consistent example for them of a great man, a great husband, a husband they should be when they get married, a father they should be when they have children, a friend. He teaches them honor and respect. Might not show all the time, but
I miss
my kids, they do. But he's a very consistent example for them and very adamant and intentional with his children.
Quickly, unlike Rebecca, you have a daughter. When you look at your husband as a father to your little girl, you too as a little girl, what's the contrast?
I think as a little girl, for me, I always wanted, and I had it, I think just as I grew up and went through different stages in my life, it changed, but I wanted a certain relationship with my dad, and I wanted love a certain way from my dad. And in my adult life, I realized that because of his life and things he's experienced and how he was raised in the era that he's raised in, he's in his 70s, his way of loving me was by providing, and I learned to accept that and honor that and love that about him. But for my daughter, seeing her be best friends with her dad, it's like, we always joke about it, but it's like I'm the wife and she's the other woman. But in like the best way, because they're roll dogs. And but I just pray that when she's ready for a husband, that she thinks back on the relationship she has with her dad and looks for that. Because he does a wonderful job with her, and he's very intentional with her, separately from the boys.
For you?
So I had two boys, and Papa is present, and even he always reminded me, hey, you spend 12 hours in your office and you have not spent time with your boys, because he is intentional in spending time with the kids. The other thing is that everything that he does every day with the kids, it reminds them, I'm training you to be a dad, and I'm training you to be a husband, and I'm training you to be a man. So he's always training them.
Parents, are you listening to that? Are you listening to that?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're training. We're training. So I appreciate hearing that. I really appreciate hearing that. Go ahead.
And even he requests from them that they are applying that, and then they dream that. Like he is modeling or shaping their manhood. Like, you have to do this. You do things this way. When you marry somebody, you go, like, they are always like thinking and dreaming, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, like, they are in training, like, wanted to be a dad, wanted to be a husband, and that's all they talk about. And I remember my dad passed away last year, and we were planning a trip a day because we were going to see my family because my dad passed away so quick. And I remember I was crying, I was a mess, getting ready, suitcase and everything, and Papa said the kids, and I was in the other room and say, hey, You go into Mexico and you go there to take care of your mom. And that is your assignment for this trip. And the whole 10 days that I was in Mexico, my kids were there, feeding me, giving me water, and other kids were playing, but they had an assignment for that trip.
When you have children, your life is easier. When you have children, your life is easier. If you're smart and intentional and purposeful, the more children you have, your life is easier. You're training up your children so you have more help. Children are resilient. They are sponges. They absorb. So your life shouldn't be harder. Your life should be easier. And if your life is harder with the kids you have, then you should have to question your training, the things that you're doing. So is
Yeah, and Papudi went to this trip with us, but he said, I'm not going to be there, but you're going to be there doing what I would do for your mom. And for me, that was wow. And those kids, they spent the time treating me and helping me through those days that I was in Mexico with my family.
When I raised the boys, one of the things that I told the boys young, you're not dating around. You're not going to be those kind of boys. You're not breaking hearts. Not in this home. I'm not going to applaud the many girlfriends you have. That's not the kind of dad I am, and that's not the kids I'm raising. I'm raising husbands. I'm going to raise amazing husbands. I'm going to raise amazing fathers. And this is how I'm talking to 3- and 4-year-old boys. I didn't laugh and I didn't entertain the little many girlfriends or anything like that, or give them the high five. How many girlfriends you got? How many numbers did you get? No. I was teaching them to be fathers, to be dads. To be husbands. Let's wrap this up. This is the last question, guys, and we're done. Last question. Now think back. 10 years, 13 years. Look at your life. Things that you guys experienced together. And in the years, you guys have had highs and lows. You've had hiccups. You had challenges. But you said, I'm happy. You said, I'm happy. You ask the average wife if she's happy in her marriage, she can't answer that. He's okay. He's workable. And you ask a husband, are you happy in your life? Are you having fun in your life, in your marriage? It's okay. You guys have all of that covered. It's all covered. Think about mom for a moment. Let's go back to now. Think about mom. You just talked about how hard your mom's life was, how difficult, challenging, how tired mom was. And I want you to think for a moment, what would life, and I know this is a little weird to think about, but what would life be like for your mom and yours, Jess, if your mom had an Adrian and your dad and your mom had a Pablo? What would you see different, perhaps, for your moms? We're not bashing dad, your pet dads. But in contrast, if you look at your mama, and if she had the companion that you had,
To be happy, rested, and fulfilled.
Happy. At peace. Independent, but dependable. Soft and vulnerable. She is, but more so.
more so.
Unguarded. Yeah.
So this wraps up the chat. All right. Now I want you listen carefully to this, right? Because I'm not boasting, but maybe a little. Just hear me out though. Because many of you have in-laws in the mix of decision making and decisions, things that you observe. Jessica and Rebecca, did my relationship play a role in some of the decisions and the risks that you made?
I always thought before and after that we would not be okay you would not be okay as failing. So, and I always saw you as Papa seeing himself to be accountable. So, yes, plays a great role because I always felt comfortable to go back to you and say, hey, we are not doing good. Mm-hmm. So I want you to help us to get there. So you shaped our marriage a lot because I knew that as we were going through hiccups, that was not it. Like we were able to get to a different stage in a different type of harmony and relationship. So you were able to keep Papa accountable and to keep me accountable and say, hey, how we get there? Mm-hmm. So you help us to shape that.
Did you ever see your father-in-law have a preference between you and my son?
No, never. Even Papa always said that that you prefer me instead of him, but I think you prefer the true, not what's right. But you were so intentional in healing what was going on, not just, I don't know, you never cared about who fault was that. You're like, hey, how will we fix this? What is the next step?
All right, for you, Jess.
So for me, it wasn't just an on the whim risk, right? It's calculated.
Yeah, of course.
And intentional, but I felt like your guys' relationship and you, I'm an observer, I'm a people watcher, and because actions are so important to me, I care less about what's said and more about what people do. And seeing for myself the family structure and culture that I wish I had. My parents loved me and we had a loving home, but it wasn't happy all the time. And so seeing that and seeing its consistency over those 2 years where we were just friends and doing ministry together on the worship team, I knew that he didn't have those values and things on his own. And through relationship, it was, even if I knew that like we were hitting a rough patch, just like Rebecca, I knew that I could trust your position and advice in our marriage.
Now, the reason I brought this up, right? The reason I brought this up, it's because I wanted you guys to know and remind you guys, my marriage was failing. I had lived through 12 years of a living hell in my home with my wife. My wife and I were we were in a abusive relationship. 12 years. There was no hope in our marriage and our future. Everything that you hear here, everything that you're hearing here, all of this stuff only happened because of the grace of Jesus in our life. When Jesus came into my life and I opened my heart to Jesus and I surrendered completely, I learned how to be a husband. I learned how to be a father. I learned everything that God intended for a man. But it was after my surrender to Jesus. Not a religion, not no crazy faith, not just a church. It was my life to Christ. How can I become more and more like Jesus? When I became more and more like Jesus, I became more and more attractive to my wife. So all of these things that you hear here, all of those things were all a byproduct of the surrender to Jesus. Had I not surrendered to Jesus, none of this. And listen, when I get to look at my grandchildren and I get to look at their faces and I get to see the kind of husbands they're going to be, the kind of families they're going to have, I get to say and look at Satan and say, "You thought you had me, but God had another purpose for my life." So I'm here to tell you that if you think your story has ended, there is so much more to your story. So much more to your story. I want to pray for you. Can we thank Rebecca and Jessica? Thank you, guys. Love you. Love you guys.
Thank you again for checking out our podcast. If you would like to find information about who we are or how to donate so that we can keep doing what we're doing, please check us out at www.scarletnotes.org. See you next time.